The coffee was too dark that morning, almost ink, and the kitchen smelled like burnt cedar and citrus zest from the peel I twisted over the cup to wake it up. I stood barefoot on the cool tile, watching a bright square of light crawl up the cabinet door as the sun lifted. The phone lay face down on the counter, a small black witness waiting for me to admit what I already knew. I had the window open an inch. Outside, a delivery truck sighed and shifted its weight on the street. In the living room, a single manila folder sat on the table like a quiet animal. Sleek, coiled, patient. The email had come at 6:12 a.m. We noticed new activity on your account. Polite as a concierge calling about a package. The number was there in the subject line, $100,000, a loan I had not applied for. My name, my address, my credit score, my birthday. I opened the banking app. There is a button they hide 3 taps deep, behind an apology and an FAQ, report suspected identity theft. Freeze new credit activity. I pressed it. The phone vibrated once. Then again. Then it began its recital of urgency. Unknown number, private lender, mom, Evan, unknown. In the first 40 minutes, 23 calls. In the next hour, 62. By late morning, 109 missed calls stacked like dominoes on the lock screen, a clean clinical counter of alarm. I took a breath, rolled the citrus peel between my fingers, and felt the oil slick my thumb. The light on the cabinet door reached my face. I smiled at the folder on the table. Okay, I said to the room. Let's begin. 109 missed calls. 1 button. I didn't raise my voice. Who I am the person who keeps the ledger straight. At our firm, a 12-person design studio that believes in light and angles and invoices paid net 30, I am the operations director, which means nothing moves unless I have touched it twice. When I was 8, my father would bring home his receipt envelope from the hardware store, and we would spill it on the kitchen table and sort the slivers by date, by total, by vendor. He called it the end of day. I liked the smudged ink and carbon smell on my fingers, and the simple truth that numbers went where they belonged. My brother Evan, 2 years older, could charm a stone into thinking it was a bird. When we were teenagers, he coached me on how to talk our mother into extending curfew for both of us, even though it was technically his idea to slip out the back gate. In college, I learned systems. Evan learned velocity. He said he was building a property development company, and sometimes he did. He sent us renderings. He sent us sunrise photos from rooftops with captions like first pour, and I clicked heart because hope costs nothing to offer. When Dad died, it was Evan who stood at the podium in the church and told the story about the jars of screws and the quiet way a person keeps a home from wobbling itself apart. After the funeral, I found a note in Dad's old ledger in his handwriting. Trust is a tool. Use it. I am the person who double knots. I am the one who books flights with the 3-hour layover because the layover is when you breathe. I am the one who keeps originals in a safe deposit box and scans into a folder labeled with the date and the kind of thing it is. People like me make terrible targets and irresistible shortcuts. People like me hold keys. I didn't know which door Evan wanted to open with mine, only that he had already jimmied the lock, the lever, what they try to take. The lender's name meant nothing to me that morning, but the number did. 1.1 for a 12-month bridge on a mixed-use conversion 2 neighborhoods over. I know that building. I had watched it half empty itself of tenants and sprout scaffolding like hopeful bones. I did not know it was under Evan's flag. The form in my email said co-borrower. The signature at the bottom was my name, precise and patient, copied from the way I had signed a lease in 2015, back when I experimented, with an extra flourish on the L that made me smile for a week before I decided it was too much. There was a notary stamp beside the signature. I recognize good printing in the same way a musician recognizes a true note. The ink was too sharp. The seal number had an extra slant in it, like someone had rotated it in a program and thought that would pass for depth. My address was current. My employer listed correctly. Even the annual salary was what it should have been, down to the last 100. The attachments included a photo of my driver's license, front and back, and a pay stub from last month. It was all true, which made it worse. Evan had always taken what he could convince you wanted to give. He must have lifted the license scan from the time I helped Mom with a mortgage refi 2 years ago, when we dumped our family paperwork into a shared cloud folder, and he offered to be tech support for her old laptop. He must have taken the pay stub from when I filed Mom's medical forms and texted both of them to Evan because he promised he would bundle upload. He must have watched my hand as I signed a birthday card and practiced the lay of the pen. He chose the slant from 2015 because it was online somewhere. He put the lever in place and leaned. The shift. Receipts of Erosion. I opened the manila folder on my coffee table. Inside were 3 things that did not belong in the same story and therefore told me exactly what the story was. A withdrawal slip. $90,000. Consultant fee? Cash disbursed at 3:14 p.m. yesterday at a branch in a neighborhood Evan likes to call Emerging. The teller's signature was clean and the stamp was real. I know because I stood in that branch with Dad once when I was 11. And the manager gave me a tour and let me press the stamp on a scrap of paper like a child with a passport. A printed email chain. 3 notes between Evan and a broker named Tyler, where the subject line said pre-transition docs. Will be seamless if Lena signs the packet, Tyler wrote. Evan replied, she's on board. Don't CC her yet. She's swamped at work. The timestamp on that is from last week. The same afternoon, Evan asked me if I could stop by Mom's because her Wi-Fi is being a diva. In the margin of the printout, a coffee ring overlapped the words, funds released. A screenshot of a shared folder, access denied, flashed on the screen when I tried to open family. Finance yesterday after dinner. The note beneath it said, you no longer have access to this item. The icon had a tiny padlock like a child's drawing of a secret. That told me Evan was already moving things, already thinking in locks and doors. The screenshot was mine. I had taken it last night when I felt the lock click but didn't know what it closed. Receipts don't shout. They point. The ally and the motif line, I called the number at the bottom of the lender email and asked for the fraud unit. I spoke the way I organize folders, calm, labeled, one at a time. After 2 transfers, a voice came on that didn't have the practiced role of someone who has said the same script 1,000 times. This is Priya, she said. I can help you. Priya didn't fill the silence with empathy as confetti. She asked for anchor points. What do you actually know? She said. Not what you think or fear, what you can hold. I told her about the 1.1 nads. I told her about my signature and the notary stamp that felt like a printed coin. I told her about the $90,000 cash slip and the email thread. When I finished, there was a small breath on the line, like she had been writing with a pencil and lifted it off the page to see the shading. Move 1 brick, she said, and let the wall fall. It wasn't customer service wisdom. It felt like a personal rule, said quietly to a stranger because it worked. Don't chase everything, she went on. Push the brick you know moves. In these cases, 1 clean thing breaks the pattern so the rest reveals itself. We picked the brick. It was the notary. The seal number on my signature belonged, Priya said, to a notary whose commission expired in 2019. The application date on Evan's packet was last week. If we prove that, she said, everything touches it. Chain of custody, intent. I could hear her smile through the line, not gloating, but relief that the math started to balance. I'll escalate, she said. But don't talk to your brother about it in an open-ended way. Keep 1 line open and put the rest in writing. Move 1 brick and let the wall fall. The move, decisive, non-technical. The thing about decisive moves is that they can be very small. A click, a walk to a desk. A steady hand setting a folder on a counter and saying, this is for you. I clicked the button that froze new credit activity. It is a red thing that sits behind an apology and 2 help articles. I saved a screenshot with the timestamp. I opened a document I had started after Dad died. A simple, weary file called Trust, Marigold, Docs. I signed a page that moved my condo from me to the Marigold Trust, which I had created with a lawyer when I realized I didn't want any one person's chaos to be able to pry at my door. I had not funded it yet because I thought it could wait. I decided it could not. I put the trust transfer papers and the printed email and the withdrawal slip into the manila folder with a copy of my passport and my actual signature from a notarized 2017 HR form with a very alive notary seal. I wrote a note to Priya with a pen my mother gave me on my 30th birthday. Here is the brick. I signed the note with the small L I returned to after 2015, the one without the flourish. Then I walked to the lender's downtown office because sometimes a person has to put a body in a lobby and make it real. The lobby smelled like glass cleaner and cinnamon from a candle someone had burned yesterday. A guard with a face like a tree asked me to sign in. His name tag said Noel. He tilted his head when I said the fraud unit. She asked me to deliver this, I said, and I held up the folder like a flag. Noel pressed a button beneath the desk. A light above the elevator changed. It was a small, polite ritual of permission. At the 10th floor, a woman with hair pinned into a precise shape came to the reception desk. "I'm Devon," she said. She looked at the folder like she already knew what it weighed. "Priya told me to tell you she's listening." I set the folder down and the tap echoed louder than it should have. Devon slid a form across the desk. I initialed once. 1 click. 1 paper. 1 brick. On my way out, my phone buzzed until it became a percussion section. Private numbers. Evan, Mom, unknown. The badge for voicemail bloomed from 0 to 7 in a minute. I put the phone in my bag and zipped it. I clicked once. Then I walked the folder to the 10th floor. Fallout, visible consequences. I had never been popular by accident before. The calls stacked up. The texts went from curious to panicked to accusatory, the way a person trying to kick in a door moves from knocking to leaning to sprinting at it. Evan texted, "We need to talk." Then, "It's not what you think." Then, "You don't want to escalate this." Then, "They're going to call Mom." Then, "Answer your phone." Mom called. And the voicemail was the one she leaves when she thinks she is being reasonable. "Honey, please, I know you're at work. But Evan says there's been a misunderstanding, and if you could just call him and sort out." She trailed off in the place where she catches her breath and decides if she is going to say what she knows or pretend not to. I love my mother. I let the voicemail end, then the public thing happened. Evan posted on his Facebook, which he uses like a press release. "When you help family, family helps you," he wrote. Unless they don't. Pray for hearts to soften. A photo of us as kids at the county fair sat beneath the text, my face turned toward a lemon ice with a straw. Comments came like bees. I don't generally invite strangers into my kitchen. I made an exception. I posted 4 images on my account, a timeline with black bars over what wasn't necessary to show. Image 1, the notary commission record that expired in 2019. Image 2, the printed email that read, "Don't CC her yet. She's swamped." Image 3, the $90,000 withdrawal slip. Image 4, the credit freeze confirmation. No caption. No hashtags. Just the date. Then I went quiet. The lender called twice more. Devon left a message. "We've placed a temporary hold pending verification. Our investigator will be in touch." The third call was a different kind of voice. "Detective Rivas, Financial Crimes Task Force," he said, name and cadence like a stamp. "We have your packet. Please confirm that you did not authorize the loan." I texted Priya. They called. She replied with a dot and then, "Good." That night, there was a knock at my door that was not a neighbor knock. 2 beats, a pause, 2 beats. I checked the peephole. A man in a suit held a badge in his palm the way a person carries a breakable thing. I let the chain fall. "Ms. Caldwell," he said, "I'm here to advise you that the co-borrower status is on hold and to serve a notice regarding your condo." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a copy of a lien notice that should have attached to my property but did not, because of the trust transfer recorded at 2:41 p.m. "Nice timing," he said, without irony. "I've seen worse." Receipts thread posted. Then silence. The confrontation scene Evan wanted to meet in a place we both loved. "Arcadia?" He texted like he was asking if I remembered the taste of the blueberry scones we used to split. 15 minutes. I told him yes, and I slid my phone into its clear case and set the recording app before I left my apartment. The app doesn't beep. It doesn't announce itself. It just keeps a line straight. Arcadia was all light and grain, wide plank floors and plants hanging lazily in cages near the ceiling. When Evan walked in, he looked like a man trying to find the right face to wear. We hugged because that is what families do in public. He smelled like cologne he could not afford. We sat. "You killed the deal," he said, quiet. "You killed it." "I protected my name," I said. The table between us was a small maple square, smooth and warm from the sun. "You knew I needed it," he said. "I told you I was on the verge. We talked about this." "You talked," I said. I listened. "I did not agree to be your co-borrower on a 1.1 million loan." He leaned back and looked at the ceiling like the answer was up there in the rafters. "It's bridge money," he said. "This is family. You know I pay my people. Notaries aren't people," I said, "because the one on the document." "She died in 2020, he blinked. "I didn't. Tyler handled." He stopped. His hands flattened and spread on the table like he could press the grain into remembering a different conversation. You could have talked to me, he said after a moment. Instead, you went to strangers. Institutions, I said. Not strangers. There's a difference. The door opened and a breeze moved the plant cages a fraction. A man took a photo of his cappuccino while the foam was still unbroken. Life is very calm while a wall is falling. I need that check for interest, Evan said, trying a new face. He slid a folded sheet of paper across the table. It was a calculation, neat columns of numbers. A total circled at the bottom, $28,000. Just this piece and I can unwind. I reached into my tote and brought out a cashier's check already made out for $28,000. He inhaled like I had given him oxygen. Then I picked it up between two fingers and tore it cleanly in half, then in half again. The pieces lay like snowfall on the maple. Evan's eyes flashed something hot and then went cold. What are you doing? He whispered, but it came out as a hiss. That check, I said, was a decoy. The trust filed at 2:41 p.m. yesterday, Evan. The condo is not collateral. The assets are not on your table to slice. His jaw went soft, and I felt the moment a person feels when a magician pauses mid-trick because the mirror is cracked and you can see the angle. Behind Evan, I saw a man I did not know reading a book. He wasn't looking at us. He didn't have to. My phone face down on the table kept its line straight. On the record, I said, calm. Did you use my name for a loan you knew I did not agree to? He swallowed. You always were dramatic, he said. On the record, I said again. Did you do it? He looked at me and saw that there was no corner left to cut. I did what I had to do, he said. It was going to work. The plant cages shifted again, as if the air had decided to keep time with the truth. On the record, I said, I did not consent. The reckoning, formal boundary, decision, institutions move slowly until they don't. When they decide to pick up a file with their whole hand, you can hear it. The lender's investigator called a week later and said the phrase I did not know I had been starving to hear. We have validated your claim, he read in a clipped tone. The co-borrower designation has been withdrawn. The application has been rescinded. Funds disbursed are subject to clawback. The matter is referred to the district attorney for review. Each clause felt like a stone set into a path I could walk barefoot. 2 days after that, I found myself in a courtroom with chairs that squeaked like they were embarrassed to be loud in a solemn room. Evan sat at a table with a lawyer whose socks were surprisingly cheerful. The judge had a voice like a ruler, straight, unbending, meant to measure. Ms. Caldwell, she said, please confirm your statement. I did, in the same steady tone I used when I asked our vendors to update their W-9s. She looked at Evan. Mr. Caldwell, do you have anything to say? He started to talk about family. She lifted one finger, the way you might to remind a child not to touch a hot pan. Counsel, she said, on the issue. She read her ruling as if the syllables were pre-measured. Temporary restraining order against encumbrance of Ms. Caldwell's property is granted. Any attempt to represent Ms. Caldwell as a co-borrower or obliger is enjoined. The notarial discrepancy demonstrates probable cause for fraud. Referral stands, she looked at me, and for a moment I saw she was a person in a body, not just an authority, and that she did not like it when families brought their knives to her table. Outside the courtroom, a detective with a notebook nodded at me. Bodycam picked up his statement at the cafe. He said, almost conversational, good line, on the record. I didn't tell him that I had practiced saying those words because Priya had said to keep one line open and put the rest in writing. I nodded back. We were all just doing our jobs. A week later, a letter from the credit bureau arrived in the mail. White envelope, clean type. It said my status was restored. It said the hard inquiries attributed to the application were removed. It said my file reflected no co-borrower obligations. It said my name the way it was meant to be said. Judge's words landed like stones in a path. Aftermath and meaning. Evan called twice after the hearing. The call stopped when I texted him one line. All further communication in writing. He posted once more. They took everything from me. And then deleted it after someone sent him a screenshot of my quiet timeline. I did not go to our mother's house for a week. When I finally did, she had left cookies on a plate and a folded piece of paper under them, as if sugar could cushion the weight of words. It was a note in Dad's hand, copied from the ledger. Trust is a tool. Use it. Mom didn't say that she had gone to the bank with me. She didn't say that she had watched me sign the transfer to the Marigold Trust with a pen that looked exactly like the one Dad had used to label coffee cans in the garage. She made tea. We sat. The house was as quiet as a church on a Tuesday. At home, I took the torn pieces of the decoy check and slid them into a small glass envelope meant for dried flowers. I hung it on a brass pin in the hallway near the door. Beside it, I mounted a copy of the trust certificate in a simple black frame. On the shelf below, I placed the pen Mom gave me and a tiny chess diagram mounted on cardboard that Dad kept near his chair. KQ versus K. The calm inevitability of checkmate in 2 if you do not rush. The phone still rings sometimes. There are always unknown numbers. I am not afraid of them. On my desk, I keep a photo of a maple table in late sun and the plant cages in Arcadia shifting just enough to register air. When I look at it, I remember that justice can be very quiet when it works. It does not kick the door. It simply stands in the doorway with its badge visible and says the thing out loud. Quiet isn't weak. It's measured. Evan will tell his story somewhere else. He will say words like misunderstood and necessary risk and family. Mine is this. My brother used my name for a 1.1 Medar loan. I clicked once. 1 or 9 missed calls stacked up. I gathered the small, polite facts as if they were screws in a jar. I moved 1 brick. The wall fell without me having to push. Priya said, "Nice work." The judge said words I copy down and read when the morning light hits the cabinet door just so. It took me a day to notice that the glass envelope with the torn check casts a small, crooked shadow on the wall in the afternoon. It looks like a little ladder leaning toward the trust certificate. I do not think it is a miracle. It is just math and sun and paper. But it makes me breathe easier when I lock the door. Move 1 brick. In the end, the kitchen smells like cedar and citrus. The coffee is strong and no longer ink. The cabinet door holds the light and gives it back. The phone lies face down, silent and still. The manila folder is in a drawer where it belongs. The quiet is not empty. It is earned.